Look at that, away to the races.
Amazing.
I'm so appreciative of this, Matthew. Your your inspiration to help get the word out and let people know what the workshop's about. So thank you for
Yeah,
that.
I'm super excited to have you here and share you with the community and also just for this opportunity to chat a little bit. I feel like um, these sorts of spaces are emergent. They're based on what's coming through people.
Absolutely.
And so
I,
here's like an initiatory spot for
yeah, it does feel that way. It does feel that phrase. It's coming through people. It does feel like it's coming through me. It's there's no grand plan on my part or schema. It's this river that runs and I pay attention to it. Yeah.
I've had some time with your book, Radical Wholeness. I haven't made it through the whole thing, and I've done it over, different times over about a year. I'll sit down and read a chapter or something.
Mm.
And one of the things that's stuck with me, and I'm totally ready to be pulled along somewhere else, but what comes to me with when I bring myself into that book is your experience with other cultures and the connection of like an embodied spiritual pragmatism, maybe the way
Mm.
I'm assembling it right now. Like, what is this connection through the body to ways of knowing that are so much bigger than some of the ones um, that we have in our kind of linguistic world? I hope I'm not going way too big there,
Oh no,
but
let's
I'm
go
just
big. I,
curious, your response to that, and then maybe we get into the more practical.
yeah, I've been aware all my life of a tension between the desire of my head to know things and sort them out and understand them in that cognitive way, and this deep knowing in the body that is guiding my life. And it's not guiding my life in any independent way. It's guiding my life by attuning to the world around me. And as a culture, we are stuck in this millennia old paradigm that the head should be in charge. And it's rampant. I mean, it's so rampant that I think we notice it about as clearly as a fish notices there's water. I mean, we just take it for granted. So, the leader of any organization is the head of that organization. It's just, it's just the way it is. And CEO, chief comes from a word that means head, and captain of a ship, captain comes from a word that means head. It's like there's no getting away from head office, from like maybe in the church you might think, well, here's an institution based on faith and love, and what if the leader of the church were the heart of the church? And we rebel against, no, the head should be in charge. It's so deeply ingrained. And to liberate myself, to find a way out of that, I've been deeply, deeply indebted to other cultures, which often put into words what I've experienced, and for which my own language has no words at all. So, as a teenager, I went to Japan and studied classical Japanese no theater. And here's a culture whose arts are based on hara, which is the
Mm,
Japanese word for belly. But of course, the Japanese word hara and the English word belly do not mean the same thing. I mean, belly, pork bellies. Bellies is this place that is maybe subject to weight gain and indigestion. That's our belly, right? And in Japan, hara is the source of your deepest truth. It's where It's where the most graceful, harmonious response to the world around you arises from. So as a teenager, I was introduced to that, and then I'm so indebted to Aboriginal cultures that articulate a way of knowing by which we have actually been able to survive through our entire history up to the sort of the end of the hunter-gatherer era. And I'm thinking there's an Aleut elder, Ilarion Merculiot, and the Aleut nation, the Aleut Islands are those islands that come off Alaska and trail out, separating the Bering Sea from the Pacific Ocean. And it is a seagoing culture. And, he talks as a kid about sitting at the edge of the ocean with the hunters. They hunt sea lions, and their relationship to the sea lion is like that of the Plains Indian to the buffalo. And these elders would sit, these hunters would sit wordlessly alert for hours. And then one of them would say, sea lion coming. And all the heads would turn and look in the same direction. Now, this sea lion was beyond what could be seen by the human eyes, 10 miles offshore, but every one of them felt its presence. And that capacity of the body to attune to the world around us and be guided by it is one that we have sacrificed in our quest to control and be in charge and impose order onto a harmonious system, which breaks the harmony of it. So yes, it's been a long journey, illuminated by other cultures, made possible in some ways by other cultures, and then to sit with that other way of knowing and to look at our culture. I see a culture imprisoned in left brain thinking. And I'm reading, there's a brilliant book by Ian McGilchrist, a recent book called The Matter with Things, in which he says, no, we don't have one brain, we have two brains. Each hemisphere is so radically distinguished from the other. And the left hemisphere, which corresponds to the right side of the body, is the hemisphere that is grounded in reality. And the right hemisphere, I got it backwards. The right hemisphere, right, left. Yeah. The right hemisphere, which is accords with the left side of the body, is grounded in reality over and over and over, to the extent that, patients who are delusional as a result of a lesion in the brain, the lesion is in the right side of the brain, in the left side of the brain, 95% of the time. No. God, right, left, right. It's disabling the right side of the brain, which is the side that accords with reality. And what we're left with is this left brain thinking that cannot see the whole, cannot feel the whole, wants to break the world into pieces, and it sees the pieces, and it's busy trying to sort out the relationships between them without ever being able to accommodate or feel the whole. And I think that's, as a culture, we're stuck on the parts we do not feel the whole, and the whole is unknowable. I mean, it is necessarily a mystery. So you cannot know it, but you can feel it. And that's what I come back to, is that ability to feel the present, to feel the whole, and to feel its guidance.
I think that's why I started by speaking to like a spiritual pragmatism, this ability to sit in the mystery that's so fundamental to sitting in the heart or and the whichever hemisphere is more holistic, and right, we try to break it down, and it doesn't matter, right, is almost the
Yeah.
point.
Yeah.
That yes, it's wonderful to be able to label these things. By breaking down the whole into parts, we come to know some aspect, and we miss out if we obsess in that
Yeah.
realm
If that's our
of
focus.
this largest piece. And one of the things I want to bring us to, because I recognize the way that right now somatics is being spoken to as a solution for trauma. Like that's kind of, I'm lumping it into a container that doesn't quite fit, but it's the happiest, most like, oh yeah, here we're going to solve our trauma with somatics. And I go, yeah, actually, there's a lot of truth here. And also, we can mistake the cart for the horse or some weird euphemism that I can't find. And so, in this speaking to the way that this awareness of the whole and the way through the body as finding holism does bring something that our culture is missing. I think there's a piece about not getting too obsessed with trauma, but what are we talking about here? And I'm curious if you have any feedback. I think a lot of the people watching this in my community have started to hear about like, yeah, I want to engage with my trauma. And then what is trauma? And I have a sense I can do it here through the body. Is there any chance that this workshop might take me that much closer? And I would say, yes, it will. Please come. I'm curious. I mean, I'm being very leading here about like, please talk about this, but I'm wondering if you have any thoughts
Oh,
around
absolutely.
this subject.
I mean, in the most simple of terms, trauma is characterized by a dissociation from the body. By that measure, we are all traumatized. We have been taught to dissociate from the body. And so our approach to the body is a top-down one. So the trauma is reinforced. Like I could never say to someone, take a deep breath. I just couldn't do it because, the brain in the head knows exactly what that is, how it feels, and makes the body do it. So to implement a reunion or a reclamation of the body with the means at our disposal, which tend to be top down, often reinforces the very wound that we're trying to heal. So listening to the body reinforces the separation. I mean, if I tell you listen to your body, I'm implying that there's a wall that is separating you from it, and the best you can do is sit in your head and cock an ear against that wall to sort of find out what's going on the other side of it. So that's, speaking of these other cultures, what Ian McGilchrist understands as right brain, left brain, I experience as pelvic bowl head. So I was trained, as we all are, to think with my head, to not just to think with my head, but to experience my thinking confined to the head. So you think about the school system, you think about the 12 years in which you're told to sit still in your chair. And if you don't, you're punished. And meanwhile, you're to fill your head with the right answers and the right information. And if you're successful at that, you're rewarded. And we go through this system of reward and punishment that basically teaches us that below the neck is noise that will interfere with the clarity of our thinking. And so, to go back to your question about trauma, there are fabulous modalities out there that give the body its freedom to live through. I'm thinking of trauma release, TRE, trauma or tension release exercises. Now, to me, which brings us back to wholeness, what is often missing is the integration piece. So the body lives through this energy, and then what? Well, the head, the intelligence of the head, I think knows nothing about integration. It can paste things together, it can juxtapose, it can tie lines between them, but that's not integration. Integration happens for me in the body and primarily in the pelvic bowl. It is a tangible physical phase shift as something integrates. And so to go through that physical expression of the trauma is necessary. What isn't expressed can't be integrated. But then that integration piece, to bring that energy, that expression back down to the pelvic bowl and feel it join the whole, in effect.
Mm-hmm. I appreciate you speaking to the pelvic bowl, and yeah, I come from the Laban Artenieff tradition, came out of dance, and come through that realm of somatics, and so Bartenieff talked about that space as the dead 3 inches, because culturally it's like, don't go there. We're not supposed to talk about that space. And here you are speaking to it as the very home of integration, in your body, that's your experience. And it just, there's a lot of power there. When you bring me there in inducting that sense of the pelvis, I get, this is how we walk, right? This is how we stride through the world. And as we walk, we pick up the pieces, but the walking is what sets it into flow, sets it into motion and relationship with the world.
Absolutely. And just to say, I feel my pelvic floor as the ground of my being. When I come to rest in myself, it's to the pelvic floor I return. When I need to attune to my truth, it's to the pelvic floor that I return. And that is a source of light, and we've turned this source of light into a pool of darkness in our culture. We have cast it into neglect, and when you have no access to that, when that sensitivity is dulled within the body, you cannot really feel the present. You cannot feel it in its wholeness. And if you can't feel the present as a whole, then what are you feeling? Because all it is whole. And then because you can't feel the present, you can't feel its guidance. And then all you can do is go up into the head and start sorting out your life. And it's exhausting.
Yeah, it is. Good luck sorting it out, right?
Yeah.
So it's another piece.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Well, I'm so excited to get to dive deeper and learn from you here. Just a little plug for the workshop. It's September 16th and 17th at SomaWorks Studio Student Space I hold here in Boise. And your website, what can you state your website again?
Embodiedpresent.com. And just to give people sort of a sense of the journey of the workshop, all of the practices in the workshop are original. I developed them. They're all so simple. But within that simplicity, there tend to be layers and layers to explore. And the workshop moves through 4 themes. So the first theme is breath. And I mean, for me, that's where it begins. And if you can feel the engagement of the pelvic floor with the breath, you are awakening its sensitivity. The second theme is rest. Once you begin to feel the breath in the pelvic floor, you can come to rest there. And the third theme is receptivity. I think we are really messed up when it comes to being present. If I say to you, Matthew, just be present. I mean, in our culture, the natural response would be, okay, just give me a minute. And I start organizing myself into what I imagine presence to be. And to me, that inhibits your ability to be present. So my experience of being present is an experience in which I feel myself being organized by the present. It is touching me, it is informing me, it is guiding me. And if I've taken charge of organizing myself, I'm not leaving room for that to happen. So rather than speak of presence, I speak of receptivity, because I feel an equivalence between presence and receptivity. If I'm fully receptive to you, I'm fully present to you. If I'm fully present to you, I'm fully receptive to you. But it's such a different thing if I were to say, Matthew, just receive. It's like it's just unencumbered of all the things that our culture has layered on it. And then when you're receiving into the pelvic bowl, you are integrating, and that's the fourth theme of the workshop, integration. So it's like Saturday morning, Saturday afternoon, Sunday morning, Sunday afternoon, moving through those four themes. And it's a lot of fun.
Good. Well,
Yeah.
I look forward to it. You know, I've been reminded a couple times in this conversation. I've been listening to The Secret Life of Plants by Stephen Buhner. And so he so eloquently speaks to a lot of these same ideas. And particularly, he talks about the heart as an organ of perception. Yeah. And the ability of the heart field to perceive and receive as well as transmit.
Now,
and
I have an issue with the heart.
Yeah. Should we get into this now?
Not really an issue with the heart, an issue with our culture's approach to it. We know the heart's important, and we are trying to go from the head to the heart. And I think when you go from the head to the heart remains tacitly under the supervision of the head. So the head gives it little directions like, open here, soften here.
Oh, right.
And if your heart is not expressing your being, what is it expressing? And if it is not connected to your being, how can it express your being? And to me, I feel the center of my being in the pelvic bowl. So it's not to take anything away from the importance of the heart, but what ripples through my being. It's like there's this flower, and the roots of the flower are in the loam, the fertile loam of the pelvic bowl, and this flower stem rises up, and there's the heart, the flower at the top of the stem, and what ripples through one's being. The heart doesn't need to be told what to do. It just naturally happens. So I think to go from the head to the heart is to leave the heart vulnerable and unsteady and unsupported.
I think I take for granted the bottom up version. So my own practice starts from the earth up to the heart. I picture the heart as a kite flying from the center of the earth.
Beautiful.
And so from that space, it's coming from below.
And the heart, the other thing about the heart is, for me, it feels like the portal through which my wholeness meets the wholeness of the world. Well, of course, if I'm not in my wholeness, you're straining the kite, so to speak.
Totally. Yeah. Well, I feel a kinship, and look forward to having you here. Anything else before?
No, I just so look forward to being there, and you know, the workshop is challenging because it's challenging habits and paradigms and cultural assumptions. But it's been developed. It's like baby steps that accumulate one upon the other. And the whole journey, I mean, it's got to be fun. If it's not fun, I think play, there's this great psychiatrist, child psychiatrist, Donald Winnicott, who commented that only in play is the whole of the personality present. So that quality of play invites wholeness. And
Yeah.
I don't know how I could run the workshop without it.
Yeah. Yeah. Body plays, right?
Yeah.
Body plays. Hmm.
Yeah.
Okie
Thank you so
dokie. Well,
much, Matthew.
thank you.
Such a pleasure.
See you soon.
I look forward to it. Take good care.
You too, Phil.
Bye bye.